Hi folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. Kind of windy this morning and chilly, but not too bad. They are calling for a bit of snow this coming weekend, but I don't think it'll be too much. We're not quite yet there to where we're starting to see the real snow. I know many of you are already seeing it. I've gotten the reports of those of you that's already getting the real winter coming in. We're not quite there, but we'll get there. It usually comes a little bit later. Usually after the first of the year is when the real harsh winter starts getting into these areas. I mean, we can get it before then, but that's typically the norm. A lot of things yesterday, good gracious, if you are into any kind of precious metals or see the real value in gold versus paper fiat currency that's absolutely worthless, yesterday was probably a pretty exciting day for you because it exploded. Gold yesterday when the markets opened kind of exploded. Went up to record-breaking numbers. The highest that I saw it at was at $21.52 an ounce, which is really kind of astronomical, although not unrealistic of the true value of gold. But it's down below 21, I think, this morning, as just earlier before I made this video. But still in those breakout numbers. Bitcoin, if you care anything about that, went up to $41,000, $42,000 a coin. I think it's up 155% over the year. Silver has gone up. It's not doing any kind of crazy breakout numbers. It's still being held back. And I suspect gold is also being held back. From what I hear, they're really trying to push the paper gold, where you're just buying derivatives of gold, trying to keep or selling it, trying to keep the price down. But gold is definitely making a breakout. I think a lot of people are kind of wondering, is this a sign that the US dollar is truly in jeopardy? Remember that after the first of the year, BRICS, it expands quite a bit. Several nations, it's either 9 or 11 nations that are joining into BRICS. Most of those nations, especially when you put it all together, BRICS is going to control a pretty good amount of the world's natural resources when it comes to oil and gas and precious metals and rare earth minerals. So that's got to be significant, right? We've been watching for the last year or so of all these countries say that they're walking away from the US dollar. Some of them actually have. There's been very interesting transactions between countries with oil and gas and other things that in the past have only been done with U.S. currency, and now they're not. So we are watching the U.S. dollar's dominance. It's getting weaker. Even Janet Yellen indicated a few months ago that it's eventually going to happen. She said it would take years for the U.S. dollar to lose its dominance. She didn't say that it would never happen. She just said it would take a while. And I'm not saying that that's exactly what's happening, but I think that we are watching the U.S. economy get into areas that many of us have known it's going. It's really been there. I think a lot of us acknowledge and realize that the U.S. economy, our dollar, our government, it's bankrupt. It has been bankrupt for a while, but the fact that they can just continue printing money and for the most part, most of the world accepts it, is the only thing that keeps it going. But the reality is it's bankrupt. We're at 33.8, almost $33.9 trillion in debt, and that 0.9 trillion has come just in the last 2 or 3 months. So we're talking almost $1 trillion in debt in a quarter, in 2 to 3 months. Which is another astronomical number that we can go into that kind of debt. The White House announced that the money is drying up for Ukraine, and that if Congress doesn't appropriate some new money for Ukraine, that all the money going over there will end by the end of this year, which is, less than a month away. So will they be spending a lot more money? I suspect so. I don't think it's over. I could be wrong. I don't know. I'm just going by gut feeling that that they're not done sending money to Ukraine. I think it's just a ploy to cause fear and panic and like, oh my goodness, we can't allow that to happen. We got to send money to Ukraine. But there's many indicators that the economy is far worse than what's being let on. And you and I know that. I've said for a long time that we are in full-on depression mode on Main Street. Maybe the numbers don't show up, but they fake the numbers all the time. I mean, look at the inflation numbers that they put out. 3% inflation. Come on. Is anything that you're purchasing only a 3% inflated price? No, of course not. They fudge the numbers. We all know it. It's been proven. You can do the research and see that they changed how they figure inflation, back in the 90s, the early 90s, and they're not even including all the things that matter. And besides that, even if those were the real numbers, those are year-over-year numbers. And if we look over the last 3 years of inflation, we're looking at, and based on their fictitious numbers, okay, we're looking at somewhere between 15 and 20% inflation. The reality is it's probably much more. Now, how does that affect you? Well, of course it affects you. I mean, we as much as we don't like it, we use the currency, the U.S. dollar, to buy everything, right? We don't like it. I think there's two things going on. Number one, there's a payday coming. The piper is calling his followers in to go over the cliff, and so I think that we are seeing the very likelihood of an economic collapse over the next 6 to 12 months, probably sooner than that. But that's also indicating that central bank digital currency will be following very shortly thereafter. There's been the banks have been doing really bad this year. They're at something like $685 billion in unfunded debt and that they, that there's losses. These are actual losses, almost $700 billion in losses in U.S. banks. I said the other day that last week 64 branches, bank branches shut down. Partly I think that's because of losses, and also I think it's because of this transitioning over to digital currency. That's the thing, that the transition is happening. It's not that it might happen in the future, it's happening. You can see it all around us where they're conditioning people, they're conditioning institutions. If you do any research or reading online, you'll see that virtually every bank and big corporation and processing service and everything is actively in the process of transitioning over to digital currency. It's just not become official yet. So all of these things are happening. And we're seeing the gold skyrocket, and we're seeing the faith in the markets and the people kind of waning, the markets and the system. People are starting to kind of wake up more and more that there's something wrong. And as much as some of you may think that that's good, I think that it also plays into their plan, because they want people to lose faith in the current system. They want people to see that, oh, there's something wrong. There's something wrong with our debt. There's something wrong with our dollar. There's something wrong with this whole system. And that's why we need to switch over to this new digital currency. So I think personally it's all part of the plan, and that we should all be bracing ourselves. Now, I have advocated for a long time that we should all have a little bit of physical gold and silver. I'm not one of these ones that advocates putting large amounts. Now, that's all in depends on the individual person. Some of you just have a lot more in the bank, right? You have a lot more assets. And for those of you that have more assets, of course, you're going to want to put more in. I don't have an exact number. It's all comparative to how much you have. I think the average person should have at least a couple of thousand US dollars in value. Of course, now with going up, that's different. Of gold and silver put back, at least. And it's something you probably should have been putting back for a while. Now it's would be expensive to get into it, because you're going to get less for your dollar purchase because the gold is worth more. There's other ways of doing it. I think the physical is absolutely the best, okay? You can vault it. and that would probably be for those that have a lot more that they're putting in, but I still am not into the vaulting thing myself. There's gold 401ks, which I know you think, well, that's not physical, it's not keeping it in your hand physical. Yes, but if you have 401k investments or some type of retirement investments, you can't take it. So the only thing you could do is either leave it in US dollar or transition it over to a gold-backed IRA, a gold-backed 401k. So that's going to work for some. And then there's also, and I've talked about this several times, there's this GoldBacked Bank. It's UPMA.org, the United Precious Metals Association. They are the only gold banking facility in the country. They are very legitimate. I personally use them. I'm not getting anything for this endorsement of them, okay? I'm just telling you because I've used them and it's been successful, and you give them your fiat currency and they convert it over to gold and you use it. I know it's not physical, and it doesn't take the place of what you would have in your closet in a shoebox, right? This is, you can transition your existing FDIC insured bank account over to this gold-backed bank account, and you can use it for most of the same things. You get a real legitimate Visa debit card that you can go and purchase your gasoline and stuff with gold. It's a separate thing. A lot of people get confused at that. Oh, you're advocating for us to not keep our gold and silver physical. No, that's not what it is. You have gold and silver physical that you keep for when the doo-doo hits the fan, right? And then this is if you want to use gold and silver currently right now to just do your normal stuff. Go grocery shopping, pay for your gasoline. And so you can take some or all of the currency in your bank account and transition over to this place. It's very legitimate, and it's I think it's probably way more insured than the FDIC stuff. And I know that some of you are going to say you're here endorsing something else. Yesterday, I talked about that freeze-dried food, the stuff that I purchased. I wasn't compelled to do that or anything. I just purchased it. I was curious and thought I would share it with you folks. And a lot of you really got upset, thought that I was selling out. It's interesting. It's selling out if I promote something that I think is a good product for some of you, maybe not all, but it's not selling out for you to watch the commercials that YouTube puts on before all the videos that I have no control over. That's interesting. I know I've gotten off on a rabbit trail. The bottom line is that this gold and silver thing, especially the gold, it's a big indicator. Here's what I was thinking last night before I get off here. I'm going to ramble on for just a minute, so stick with me. If this is legitimate, if this isn't some just weird fluke that went up and then it's going to come back down and things will be like normal. If this really is a true breakout of gold and silver, or gold especially, I think it's very likely that we will see something in the coming days or weeks that will distract people's attention from it. That's kind of what I was thinking. Because they don't want people to realize that, wow, gold's worth a lot more now, but actually it's not. That just means the US dollar is worth a whole lot less. You know, that's eventually a lot of people will start realizing that. It's not that gold's worth more. It's that the US dollar that it's being compared to is worth less. Okay, gold's worth the same that it's always been. It never changes value. It's the currency that it's based on, that's what changes. Anyways, so I suspect if this is a real legitimate breakout of gold, it's very possible that we will see something happen, whether it's something here in the homeland, some kind of attack, some kind of disaster, an escalation in Israel and Gaza, an escalation in Russia and Ukraine, something. It will probably happen, possibly happen, that's big enough to distract the nation's attention for days or even weeks away from this, if this is legitimate. I don't know that for certain. It's just something I was thinking, because they've got to do this quietly. Okay, I don't think they want everyone's focus on, wow, you've been lying to us for all this time with this fake money and been stealing from us and destroyed the middle class and taken our homes and our value and all that kind of stuff. They don't want you to figure that out. So it's got to be this quick, trade-off. And I wouldn't be surprised if there'll be some type of event that will distract people, if this is a true, real breakout of gold, to distract you from that happening. Anyways, and in the end, it's just more signs that all this that we've been talking about is getting a lot closer, folks. So be serious about it. Get yourselves ready. Don't panic. Don't be foolish. Just continue stocking up as you can, mentally preparing yourselves for the change that we are going through, physically preparing yourselves, getting yourselves healthy. I mean, with this pneumonia and all this other stuff going around, you need to be careful, making sure you're getting your physical health, your natural immunity strong as you can by taking the things that you know you should be doing. And then the most important thing is your spiritual walk, because your faith in God and Yeshua is going to be challenged in ways that you probably can't imagine with all the things that's happened in the world. And you better make sure that's as strong as you can possibly make it. Folks, get your houses in order. Prepare yourselves mentally, physically, and spiritually. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.